Bita, my friend, the most wonderful, you're up next. Bita's coming to us from NIA Intramural or Extramural Program Office.
Okay, Raz, I'm supposed to talk about NIH and funding opportunities, but listening to the first two talks, I wanted to take 1 minute of my time and talk about my career path. Maybe this will be of interest to some of the students.
And, yeah, great idea, but I'm taking it off your time.
Okay, it may be interesting. So I started my PhD in India. I worked in reproductive biology. That's where I got my degree. And I always knew I wanted to continue my postdoc to come to the US. And I joined NIH as an intramural student. I did 2 postdocs at NIAAA and NINDS in neuroscience. So I came from reproductive biology to neuroscience. And when the second postdoc ended, I had to leave NIH and change my visa status. This is something maybe interesting to some of the postdocs or new PhD students that are listening to this presentation. So I had to leave and I went to industry. That's another career path that people can think about. And I became an extramural scientist in a way where I was writing grants and applying to NIH for funding. And 18 years ago, I became US citizen and I came back to NIH as a scientific review officer. That's all I wanted to add to my presentation because that's an interesting path of being in research, going to intramural, getting extramural view of funding, and then becoming an extramural scientist. And with this, I'm going to share my screen and my presentation. Okay, first of all, I want to thank Raz, Alessandro, and Mitch for giving this opportunity to me for presenting at the AGE meeting. And this talk is mainly focused about the different opportunities for young investigators. And I would like to be able to help you to find a path for yourself to secure grant and identify what your future can be.
Have you started sharing yet? I don't see your screen.
Oh, you cannot see it? Hold on a second.
Ali, we have her slides, right? So if it's a trick, we can do it. Oh, you've got it.
Yeah, I think we're getting it.
All set.
Can you see now?
Yeah, now there you are in all your glory.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
And I'm sorry, while I'm at it, Dr. Levine, there are a number of questions addressed directly to you in the Q&A. If you are able, if you could address them there in the meantime.
Yeah, I'm working on them.
Thank you.
So National Institute of Health, where I come from, is the primary federal agency in the US for conducting and supporting biomedical research. $42 billion were allocated to NIH budget for this research, and NIA has $3.5 billion of a share of it. 27 institutes and centers are within NIH, and the institutes are divided into 2 entities, the extramural entity and the intramural entity. And out of these 27 institutes and centers, 24 of them have the funding authority. I work for National Institute on Aging, and in NIA Extramural, NIA Extramural Team, there's a review staff, grants management, and program staff. And we each work independent of each other, but we all work together as well. And we take care of the proposals which get submitted to us by you guys, and we are all supporting you, and we are here for you to get successful. You are the future of our science and of our institute. Before I get into the funding opportunities and possibilities, I wanted to clear this question for you guys. Before you submit your application, a program officer at NIH or the center can be your point of contact. Scientific review officers like me also can be your point of contact. Once your application is submitted to the institute for review, the scientific review officer is your point of contact. And as soon as the review is over, the summary statement is released, your program officer is again your point of contact. There are many different career paths that you can pick as a new investigator, young investigator, or a senior investigator. I'm going to talk about few different options which are available at NIH. The first one is the NIH fellowship mechanisms, and I'm talking about a pre-doc mechanism and the postdoc mechanisms. Mainly the F30 mechanism, which is mainly for the pre-doctoral students who are MD PhDs, and the F31, which is a postdoctoral, pre-doctoral fellowship for the people who want to go to basic science. And for postdocs, we have the F32, which is the regular postdoc research training, and F33 is for senior postdocs who want to get extra training. Other opportunities at NIH are the Career Development Awards. Again, they're divided between pre-doc, postdoc, and scientist, and I'm touching upon a couple of different opportunities or possibilities. If you are a pre-doc, the F99K00 is a mechanism that you can think about, and this mechanism, it was just recently introduced. It was offered by NIH, but for the first time NIA is supporting this mechanism, and it's for PhD students who want to who are clear in their path and they want to enter a postdoctoral position. The K99R00, you already heard a lot about it. It's not a must to have, but it's a very good pathway to independence that NIH offers. It's for students who are in the first 4 years of their postdoc, and the first 2 years are for mentored phase, and the next 2 years are the independent phase. And you can get funded, take your 2 years of independent phase and look for jobs. And yes, you can use this as a bargain tool, but again, it's not the only opportunity that you can have. And the last one I wanted to talk about is the K01, which is for senior scientists who would like to get extra training, supervised training, and mentorship, and they apply for the K01 award, and it's a 3 to 5 year protected time where they can work in a mentor's lab and get training in some other area of research where they are not trained before. And at NIH, we have other K mechanisms which are not mentored. For example, K02, K24 are the other two mechanisms which I can talk about if any senior investigator is in the group and who has recently received their R01. And like, for example, the K02 will give them protected time for them not to teach in the university, and 100% of the time gets devoted to research. And finally, the R01, you heard a lot about the R01. The R01 by far is the original and the oldest grant mechanism that NIH supports. And yes, it's the best case scenario for new investigators, the best possible research path, but that's not the only opportunity. You also already heard about the R03s, the small research grants, where you apply for 2 years to support a small project, or an R21, which is more of an exploratory grant, and it's when you have a good idea, but you don't have the funding to do. This is NIH support this grant, and we really like to see people to apply to this opportunity. And I wanted to mention that both these R03 and R21 mechanisms do not count towards your early stage investigator or new investigator status. So do not worry about this. You can apply for this and still hold your R01 status once you become a new investigator, because the funding line is better for the people who are 10 years post their PhD. And last opportunity is the R36 dissertation award. It's for students who are for the represented minorities who are in their PhD. As a PhD student, they can apply for 2 years of funding, and NIH really likes to support and help the underrepresented minorities. So you heard enough about the different opportunities and possibilities of grant mechanism. What is next? What is next for you to do? The first and most important is identify which institute and IC supports a given mechanism. I talked about these 3 different avenues, but not every one of them is supported by an institute. Some of these fundings, like the fellowship grants, are always reviewed at CSR. So you have to identify the center or the institute which supports your grant. And the next most important step is identify a good mentor. You already heard enough how important the mentor is in your life. Pick your mentor wisely and identify who your program officer is, and talk to them and identify your eligibility and what requirements you need to have, and what are the different funding opportunities that NIH and NIA offers. I'm going to go into details about the Career Award. There are 5 categories, 5 criteria which affect the score when you apply for a Career Award. And there are candidate, training plan, research plan, mentors, and environment. And I'm going to go into every one of them in detail and talk about, you've already heard about each one of them differently from the first 2 speakers, but I cannot tell you enough how important it is for you to publish. Productivity is a must. Publish, and this is one of the most important criteria the reviewers pay attention to. If the applicant can publish and they can show the evidence of productivity by the number of publications. Yes, it's good to have publications in high impact journals, but also it's good to explore other opportunities. It's good to have a good number of publications. Very important to talk about your research, and the reviewers want to see your commitment to research. If you have awards, skills, and experience, evidence, if you have any leadership training, please make sure that that's clearly written in the application. And when you are writing your grant, write it well. Start with a beautiful background, how you got there and where you're planning to go. And if you do not have, if you are a K99R00 applicant, or if you're writing for as a postdoc and you do not have any publications within the current lab, you can talk about it, you can mention it and say how far you are. Yes, we do only accept the published papers for the review, but it's good for the reviewers to know what is going on in your research. The training plan is also a very important component of the application. When you pick your mentor, make sure your training plan matches your mentors and advisory team, but it should also be separate from the mentor. It should not be identical to your mentor, and you should show that you're getting the mentorship, but you're creating your own path. And try to explain why you choose this training that you're proposing. So if you are writing a grant to NIA, my reviewers are very picky about commitment to aging. Make sure, Raz is laughing, make sure that you show that what you're proposing has something to do with aging. And do list your deliverables, what you're proposing to do and what you are going to get, and why is it important. When you write your research plan, make sure that your research plan is solid. Be proud of what you do, because nobody can, if you are not proud and if you don't believe in your work, the reviewers are not going to believe it either. When you write it well. Write it in a reasonable time frame. Do not be super ambitious, because reviewers don't like to see application which is proposing so many things which is not feasible to do in the certain amount of time. And when you're writing your research plan, make sure that you can include your pitfalls, interpretations, alternatives. The reviewers want to know that you're thinking in a bigger box and you're thinking about all the whatever is happening during your research. You're aware of what you're proposing to do. And it's very nice to link what you're proposing to your future research plan. It's very important that they're linked together. When you're selecting your mentor, select your mentor on the basis of the training you plan, and ask your mentor to give you his successful applications, and do not copy, but you read and see what made that application a successful application, and try to distinguish your research from that of your mentor. You heard already how important it is to select co-mentors. It's not necessary, but if you're needing to get extra expertise and get extra training, select your mentors and collaborators wisely. Do not select them on the basis of who's available in the hallway and who's the easiest to get. It's important to get somebody who can give you the right expertise and right training. And state clearly your interactions and how you're proposing to learn from each one of the mentors. It's very critical for the reviewers to know clear about that you understand what you're planning to do and how you're going to do it. And finally, the environment is very important. The location that you do your work, if you need extra support from the research community around you, if your lab is not focused on aging, but you know on-site or off-site there are people who can help you, recruit them. Recruit them and talk to them and include them in your application. If there are opportunities for you to take workshops, didactic training, seminars, symposia, NIA has the Summer Institute. NIA has other summer institutes within the NIA, which is the Butler Williams Scholars and the Summer Institute in Washington University. And there is like 2 other centers these are excellent opportunities for you guys to participate and apply. And okay, my time is running out. And it's important for you to get a strong letter of commitment from your institution. The reviewers really, really care to know that your institution is supporting you for what you're planning to do. And when you write your application, I already mentioned, leave the best impression. Reviewers will notice if the application is poorly written. Pay attention if your application is complete. Ask others to read it, the people who are not expert in the field, and ask for their comment. If you're referring to a literature, make sure that you're referring to the current literature and not citing something which is very old. Reviewers can pick up on these topics very easily. What happens to your application when you submit it to NIH? If it's a career development application, or I have listed a series of mechanisms here, it gets reviewed within the NIH standing review. We have during the year, we have an average of 100 steps that we run, special emphasis panels reviewing applications, and also we have the standing review committees. I run the biology of aging. We have the geriatrics and clinical aging, and social and behavior study. And just recently, the neuroscience study section was divided into clinical and translational and basic neuroscience. And these are the examples of the different mechanisms that we review in our study section. And also what NIH scoring is 1 to 9, 1 is the best and 9 is the worst. And if you get a score of 3 and 4, don't lose heart. You already heard this today. Don't be disappointed. A score of 3 and 4 is really, really good score. Read your critiques and try to write and resubmit your application. And my advice is to you, when you first write your first amended application or first response, keep it aside. Do not submit the first one, which is on impulse. Carefully read the critiques of the reviewers and read them again, and set them to music and read them again. And discuss the critiques with your mentors, co-mentors, and colleagues. And when you're rewriting your writing your summary writing your resubmitted application, highlight the major changes. Reviewers would like to know that you paid attention to what they suggest. It's very important for you to make it clear and highlight it, and answer all the comments and concerns. And if you do not agree with one, make sure that you specify why you don't agree and why you're not doing what they asked you to do. And finally, I just wanted to mention what are the different strategies for success. Your research questions posed should be clear. Convince the reviewer that your study is worth doing. High tech is no substitute for solid and logical planning. Don't propose a lot when you cannot accomplish it. Sell your research and sell it well. And I already talked about identify weaknesses, and do not hope for the reviewers not to find them. They're very smart and they can catch it very easily. And finally, tailor your application to the funding agency that you're applying for, and ask your mentors, collaborators, consultants to read and comment. If you do that, I guarantee you your application is going to be reviewed well and you will get a good score.
Woohoo! Well done, Bita, 20 minutes.
I'm sorry.
I knew you could get it over the line. I'm going to field 2 quickie questions for you. So Claudia Moreno and Anita Kumar both wanted to know about resident versus non-resident grants in the career stages, early career stage. Can you comment on that real fast?
Resident is only the K99 R00 is the only opportunity that you can apply. Rest, whatever I talk to is for US citizens.
Yeah, unfortunate. And gosh knows what's going to happen with the recommendations that I'm hearing, the rumors coming through. We will prevail. The second question is about the climbing of the K99 clock from Elise Marson. So is it from the time that you get conferred with your PhD? That's when your clock begins for the 4 years for K99?
Normally, we check the application. It's from the day you commence. It's from the day you have in your application. It's December 2016. That's when your 4 years start. And I want to say this. I think NIH is thinking, or maybe there is some talks that because of COVID, we may loosen that 4 year period because people have not been able to work in the lab. So maybe Ron will address that. And that's something that NIH is thinking about.
Okay, so Bita, I will direct you. There are comments for you in the Q&A, and if you can knock out a few of those.